Welcome to American Dreams, Keys to Success, with your host, Alan Olson.
Welcome back. We're here today with Richard Del Monte. He's the president of the Del Monte Group. Richard, welcome to today's show.
Thank you, Alan. It's great to be here.
So, Richard, tell us about your background.
Well, I'm a lifetime Bay Area resident, born and raised here, went to Northern California universities, married a lifetime Bay Area girl. We have 5 kids, and we live in Alamo. And I've been in the investment, I started in the investment advisory field about 27 years ago. So I've had a chance to see families go through their life cycle, and they would start with us when they were, working, and then they would go through a retired period, and then we'd see the transition where they pass their assets on to their kids. And that's when we started seeing these disasters begin to happen. Kids were starting to spend all their money. They were getting into crazy investment schemes that were promising them ridiculous returns, and they were losing all their money. Kids were getting into gambling, drugs, all kinds of problems. And then the kids were fighting with each other over the money. And I started thinking, what am I doing in this career, helping people manage money when it's all just going to blow up like this? So that's what started me on the quest to do what I'm doing now.
It's really interesting as people go through their cycles of life, mm-hmm. and you reach a stage where your parents pass, and you think you know your family until the day that the parents pass, and all of a sudden it becomes a different world.
All bets are off.
Yeah, and so I get it. What you're working on. So basically, the Del Monte Group then is focused on pulling the family together and helping them to do better life planning.
Yeah, it's actually making sure that the family will succeed over multiple generations instead of what the default is they fail. You see, you've had this situation called shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations.
Yeah,
and it's a human thing. It's not just in the U.S., but it's across all the countries. In Ireland, it's called clogs to clogs in 3 generations. In Asia, it's called rice paddy to rice paddy in 3 generations. It's a human condition. And what it really alludes to is, shirt sleeves refers to a working person's clothes. So a family starts out working class, then mom and dad hit it out of the park with success in some kind of great business or investment performance, and then next thing you know, by the 3rd generation, 2 things have happened. 1, the money's all gone, and 2, the family relationships are laid to waste as a result of the money. So, and that happens in 90% of the cases over 3 generations, and over 1 generation, like just from the wealth creator passing the money on to their kids. In that generation, about 70% of the families fail, the estates fail.
That's interesting, and I guess it's probably because things weren't handled right.
Yeah, well, interestingly, some of the people that mentored me in learning how to do this, Roy Williams and Vic Pricer, who are down in the L.A. area, but they started out up here in the Central Valley, they did a study of 3,250 wealthy families, and they found that the cause of these families blowing up wasn't anything like what they thought it would be. Normally, you would think, well, somebody did some planning poorly. There was, some legal documents weren't drafted properly, or somebody didn't sign something, some kind of failure in planning. And that was only about 3 to 5% of the causes of the families blowing up. What they found was 2 giant causes. One was about 60% of the cases was a lack of communication and trust within the family unit. And then the other, about 25%, was because the family failed to prepare the heirs for the roles and responsibilities they were going to have after mom and dad passed. So if you look at our traditional estate planning community, we don't address those things. Those are like soft human side issues. And they're just completely off the radar screen. And yet they're the things that make the big difference.
Your model is so perfect for what's going on out there. Financial planners oftentimes will talk about setting up the succession plan, all this stuff. And they fail to address the real issue with relationships.
Right, exactly.
So when you walk a person through the process then with your company, is it in different stages or different phases?
We have a process, and people will take different pieces of it, of course, but the process begins, basically what you're trying to do is create these conditions where the family can grow, they can start developing trust and communications, better communications with each other. And so the kids, when mom and dad are gone, they're ready. They know what they're supposed to do. Unfortunately, we see situations where mom and dad are reluctant to even tell the kids how much money they have because they're afraid it's going to make them lose their work ethic or not work hard. The old joke for the typical heir is people ask him, "What do you do for a living?" He says, "I'm a waiter." What do you mean you're a waiter? I'm waiting for my inheritance. So it's really parents are deathly afraid of that, and so they're reluctant to even tell them what's going to happen. And unfortunately, that's exactly what it creates the seeds for failure in the family, because when mom and dad die, the kids they become like lottery winners. They have no idea how to handle the money, what to do. If there's any inconsistency in how much the kids get, like if one kid gets a trust or the other kid gets money outright, or one kid gets I've seen $5 more than the other kid, and resentments start. So the seeds are being sown by the parents' reluctance to even discuss the thing with the kids. And so our process is really designed to change that dynamic and have the parents and the family have these experiences early.
Well, having seen that firsthand myself, I guess with some of the families I work with, I get it. You know, it's important to have those discussions up front while mom and dad are still alive, kind of outline what the family plan is, and make sure everyone's still on track there. Okay.
Exactly.
Richard, we need to take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages, and I want to go more through your processes on the multi-generation planning, get more specific on how you do this.
Right.
We'll be right back after these messages.
Protecting your family's health and welfare is a sacred trust. At Greenstein Rogoff Olson Company, we know that sound financial planning will protect them now and in the future. We're certified public accountants with tax services for the highly successful. For your business and your family, call GrowCo.
Greenstein Rogoff Olson Company will help you manage your financial affairs so you can focus on what's really important in life.
GrowCo, helping you along the way.
Apple pie, baseball, and now here's All-American Alan Olson.
Welcome back. We're visiting here today with Richard Del Monte. He's the president of the Del Monte Group, a company that deals with multi-generational coaching for families. And so when we look at your coaching business and your clientele, what types of families are you generally working with?
We like to call them self-made families. So basically, these are people who are created their own business, maybe, potentially start out with nothing and created their own business. And then also sometimes we get people in second generations of families who have inherited wealth that actually were successful. The transition worked, and they are really concerned about the next generation because they see what's happening. It could be we have people that are really successful executives of companies that want to work with us. So there's all types. People, but the common thread is that people really love their kids and care about what's going to happen, and they're looking out past their own generation, and they can see, what's on the horizon, and they're really worried about it. I mean, how many people spend their whole life building a career only to see it destroy with the intention of having it destroy their kids and their family? Nobody does that, but yet that's what happens.
I think so often we get caught up in the what we do day to day, that we fail to forget we're all here on a timeline, and eventually everything needs to pass to the next generation.
Right.
So you're more about gluing the family together
right.
in a family mission statement, and
right.
maybe can you walk me through some of the processes there about what you're focused in on?
Sure. Well, we have a 4-step process basically, and the first process is to help the parents really understand. We call it cultivate your capacity, and it's really helping them understand what it is that like the successes that they've had are caused by their own strengths that they've developed and their talents to create these great successes in their business. We help them to see that they can use those same talents to change the outcomes in their family. And most people we find are really resigned about their kids. They look at it and say, well, this kid's a ne'er-do-well, this kid's never going to amount to anything, we're really upset about this kid. And they're really there's a sense of resignation. So we help them to see that the strengths that they have, that they can really use them to help their family, and then to start imagining what kind of outcomes they want to have for the next generation. Like, maybe they want to repair relationships that were damaged because they were spending all their time building their business. Or maybe they want to start a relationship they never got to start. Whatever it is, we help them to envision those things. And then the next step is we will have the family get together in some kind of a family gathering, and we'll have some shared experiences together that give them the opportunity to start communicating and building trust.
So in the first phase, are you meeting with just the kids, or is it the parents, or what? Who's coming up with the?
Typically, it's the parents.
Okay.
And we'll the way we do it most often is we'll sit down and we'll interview the parents for 2 or 3 sessions. We'll record the sessions, and they may be 2 or 3 hours each. And I'll ask them questions designed to really uncover the strengths and talents that they have. So one typical question might be, describe a mentor that was really important to you when you were a kid growing up. And so they may describe a grandparent or a scoutmaster. And we'll ask them, what did you learn from that person? What strengths did you get from them? And you'll see that these threads that come out, and they typically involve things like perseverance or hard work, values, faith, education, things that they look at and say, wow, this is what made me successful. And these are things that I want to make sure that the next generations of my family, all future generations, understand, that I think are important. So that's what happens in that particular phase. And then we'll create a family vision statement where the mom and dad will take the things that we've uncovered from our conversations and begin to say, these are the things that we had that made us who we are, and this is what we'd like to see you guys do going forward in the future. We'd like to see you doing these kind of things together, having these kind of experiences, working towards these goals.
Now, is it explaining or is it getting the buy-in there? What's more important to the process?
Great question. Most of it is explaining, because the parents have mostly talked to their kids in didactic terms, like, you guys should do this. And what we're talking about is having a conversation like adult to adult. Like, these are the things that made us successful. And in the first meeting, we'll have the parents explain what their life story was together. And most of these kids don't even know that mom and dad maybe went bankrupt once or twice, or had these experiences where they were actually poor and had to really start with nothing. And the kids, their experience of their parents is growing up in wealth. They have no idea the human side of what their parents have gone through. So we have them explain those things and their pathway, so the kids can start seeing, oh, what's my pathway? This is how mom and dad did it. I wonder what my path is. What do I want from my life?
We're visiting here today with Richard Del Monte. He's the president of the Del Monte Group, a company that deals on multi-generational coaching and family planning. Richard, we're going to come back after the break, and I'd like to talk some more about going in depth to some case studies of what you've done. We'll be right back after these messages.
Nothing's more important than spending time with your family. At Greenstone Rogoff Olson Company, we're trusted advisors to the highly successful. Our goal is to help you find the right strategy to protect your wealth for yourself and those you love. Kids, why do I feel like I've just had an audit? As trusted advisors to the highly successful, we'll make sure that you don't lose your shirt.
Roco helping you along the way.
Apple pie, baseball, and now here's All-American Alan Olson.
Welcome back. We've been visiting today with Richard Del Monte. He is the president of the Del Monte Group, a company that deals in multi-generational coaching and family planning there. Richard, when you walk through the process, before the break, we're talking about your different phases and helping families kind of come together. But one of that was talking about a family vision statement.
Right.
Can you walk me through the process? What do you do?
We take all the things that mom and dad have identified that are created the strengths that they have and the values that made them successful, and we put them on paper. So we explain to the children the things that made the family successful, and then we help the mom and dad project forward the things that they want to see the family embrace, hopefully, or the attributes they want to have in the family, like how often do they want them to get together, what are their aspirations for the family, and then the kids will end up taking that vision statement and use that as fodder, or as the foundation of creating a family vision statement, which incorporates their view for the future also. So you can't just force kids to do what the parents want to do, otherwise they won't do it. So it really is important to have the kids take what they get from mom and dad and then add their own 2 cents into it to create something that they really can be invested in. The example that you and I were talking about on the break was Edsel Ford, who got forced by Henry Ford to work in the auto business. He ended up dying in his 50s. He was miserable. And it didn't work. And the alternative is J.D. Rockefeller, Jr., who went to his dad and said, "Dad, I don't want to work in the oil business." He said, "Well, what do you want to do, son?" He said, I want to start a philanthropy." He said, "Okay, good. Go ahead and do that." and it ended up becoming very successful. And that family is one of the families who are successful going forward because the family values unique abilities and the things that people want to do and lets them focus on those. A family really can't be successful unless every individual in the family is living the life that they want to live. And the family and the parents have the opportunity to say, we can use this wealth that we have to help everybody in the family to live the lives that they want. And if the kids believe that the family really wants that, that family will stay together for a long time.
You know, it's interesting. Sometimes when, as we're going through life and we reach certain different ages, we grow out of touch with generations below us.
Mm-hmm.
And last week I was flipping channels and I came across a show called Breaking Amish. And I thought, oh, that looks like an interesting show. And I turned this thing on, and it's about a bunch of kids in the Amish community that decided that they wanted to go out and explore the world. And so one of the guys goes down to New York City. He gets a tattoo, and he has these Amish girls around. That's really neat. You know, obviously they know the parents and the next generation were going to like that. But you know, it just speaks to the effect, how important if a person doesn't have a pathway set in life. And also, we all have the opportunity to include different generations in. If we can set pathways together, using the experience or learning curve from the generations before us to those coming up after, how much more meaningful that will be.
Right, and how much more close together the family will feel.
So, probably the most successful family out there from multi-generational is the Mars family, where they've been able to keep the Mars candy bars in the family for 7 different generations. Right. What's been your experience on the family business? How many generations do they typically go through before they find out that they have to sell because there's too many people around?
Typically, it has to get sold in the 2nd generation because there's too many different views, and the kids haven't been prepared for what they're going to do. And you'll also see situations where the kids who haven't been trained to be in the family business will sue to break it up. They want to get their money their equity out of the firm, and it just doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So my experience is, 2 generations. There are some that go longer. The Mars family really, we try to tell people to have a beginner's mindset and use 7 generation thinking. So when you make a move, like, are you going to put in a grat or a crut in your family? What's the impact going to be? We know it's going to save taxes this year, but what's the impact going to be 7 generations from now on your family of doing this? So if you have that kind of a mindset, and then you also a beginner's mindset means, I don't know everything. I'm open to being taught, and tell me what I should know so I can make this better.
Yeah, random question out there, but I don't know if tax policy plays a role where the IRS says, when you start to skip generations in estate tax, we're going to start to take more and more away from it. But typically they can get down to the grandchildren through like a generation skipping trust. But it seems that by the time you get to the 4th generation, Uncle Sam has already stepped in and taken a bulk of that estate out.
Right. Right.
So bringing
if the
back,
kids haven't spent it already.
Yeah. So bringing back the family vision statement, getting the people to buy in and help to give them input. What will be the next phase that you'd walk through?
The next phase is you want to set up some kind of a structure in the family that's an intergenerational structure. They use the terms like family governance. It could just be like a family council, something that the future generations of the family can aspire to belong to when they get to be adults. Mm-hmm. That seems to be the thing that really creates longevity in families, so that when the families can participate together, they have a vehicle for getting together and making tough decisions and working things out and having the opportunity to communicate and develop trust because they're together often. So, frequent family meetings, at least annually, opportunities for them to do family business, family fun, and work on the business of the family. And also to practice these governance skills and learn to lead, giving the kids leadership skills. When I talk about kids, we're talking about, it could be kids 50, 60 years old. Mm-hmm. But you have families where some people are really great entrepreneurial people, executives, and then you have other family members, siblings who haven't done anything, or dancers or something that are not, where typically in society thought of as like really great, prestigious jobs. Those people have to learn how to communicate together and appreciate each other and respect each other. Otherwise, the seeds of discord are being sown.
How big does a client need to be before they come talk to you?
How big? If they can afford the freight, the fees, we'll do it for any family. We don't care. We don't worry about that.
And then is it a one-stop fee, or is it different phases, or how do you?
We have different ways families can do it. They might say, well, we want to pay you for the first couple of phases and let's see how it goes, because there's no model out there. People have a hard time understanding what it is we're talking about. They'll think, oh, are you doing psychology? No, it's not psychology. Coaching is really mentorship and encouragement and helping families have great experiences together. We're not rehashing or fixing the old wounds that people have.
I'll have to say that in your business model, when everyone goes through their grave, it all stays behind.
It does. And
all that is left is the memories and what you taught that generation.
Right.
And so what you're doing really has great lasting value, probably more than the money itself.
Right.
Reunifying families and bringing them together.
Absolutely. One example in my own family, my great-grandfather and his brothers emigrated from Italy in the 1870s. And within 10 years, they came over here, no English, there was Italian speaking. Within 10 years, they owned real estate on Broadway in San Francisco. They had a bunch of successful hotels. They had a successful restaurant that just shut down last year or this year after over 100 years. And how did they make that success in 10 years? How did they do that? They couldn't even speak English. They were poor, no education. If we had known now, if they had been able to pass on those the abilities and strengths that they had to be successful, what benefit would it have been in my family, now, today? It's just, the longer it goes, the more precious it becomes. And parents think, well, nobody wants to hear this stuff. Yeah, well, your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids, they are crucially interested in what you have to say. They want to learn from your experiences, and after you're gone, they just become more and more precious.
So, Richard, how does somebody contact you for more information?
We are on the web. We're at richard@aplaceofpossibility.com. We have our phone number, 925-736-6410. We're up in Alamo.
Okay, that's Richard. Let's see, at aplaceofpossibility.com.
Right.
Okay, or it's just www.aplaceofpossibility.com.
Right. And you can
and the phone number once again?
925-736-6410.
That's 925-736-6410. Richard Del Monte, the Del Monte Group. Richard, thank you for being on today's show.
Great to be here with you, Alan. Thank you.
We'll be right back after these messages.
You're listening to American Dreams with Alan Olson on AM 1220 KDOW.